I'm the Sad Pan, and this is going to be the 15th episode of my series, I Read This, Should You? Where basically I give you a review on a book, novel, or manga that I've read, and you decide whether or not to read it. And of course, I'll only touch on the first 100 chapters so to not spoil everything. This episode is going to be on no way people find cultivation difficult, right? Okay, so this story is essentially about a person named Yi Peng who, after going to multiple different sects and sects, multiple different sects and large clans and stuff to try to become a cultivation disciple. He's told that he has no talent and he is essentially useless and he shouldn't even try cultivation. His meridians are too weak and all this stuff. He doesn't have a world core or something like that. And after a while, he's about to give up on his journey. He's gone to dozens and dozens of these sects and stuff to try to become a disciple. And a disciple finds him. It's a sword sect, and they're like, okay, well, their situation is that they need disciples because they're about to be demoted from a large clan to a small clan, and after that you get less stipends and stuff. So they need more people, and no one wants to join their clan because it's not very good. So everyone's leaving, and they're like, we need more people. So they just find anyone pretty much and try to train them and look like a big sect or whatever. And they find Yi Peng, and they're like, well, no one else took him. We're gonna take him in. And we're just gonna pretend that we're big shots, and this is a huge clan, and he's gonna become one of these sword saints, and he's gonna be insane or whatever. And obviously they don't believe that because they can see that he has weak meridians and stuff like this. And so that's the premise of the story is Yi Peng can't find a sect, and he finds a sect and he cultivates there. So the reason why the story is named what it is, which is super long, is because his skill, in the way I see it, is in stories like this, with cultivation and stuff, a lot of times either the main character will have extreme difficulties in one aspect, but every other aspect they're super good, or they'll be just really good at everything. And this is the former. So Yi Peng, he does have weak meridians and stuff, but he has an edict memory, and he's blessed by the Tao, so he can comprehend sword moves, and he can comprehend sword moves that aren't even there and stuff like that. So in the story, a greater disciples, inner core disciples. What are the inner core disciples? Is a teacher of the other disciples, and he has to teach Yi Peng. And since they don't have really any other disciples, they have to they put their all into training Yi Peng. So what he does is he uses a sword slash, and he cuts a hole, cuts a line in the ground, and he's comprehend this line, see how many sword strikes you can see in this line or whatever. And so this teacher, he knows that he's not the greatest sword master. He knows that, but he was told by the head of the sect that just pretend that you're a big shot, show this kid that we're big shots and stuff so we can get this stipend or whatever. And so he pretends he's this big shot, and he does this sword slash, and it took all of his power to do so. And Peng, he's okay, yeah, I'll comprehend it. And he stares at this sword slash, and you can see sword intent and stuff. So when he stares at it, he comprehends 1,000 moves. And this sect leader, he doesn't even know 1,000 moves. So he's yeah, there's still more in this. And he has to go tell the head of the sect, he's this kid's insane. He's actually crazy. And it turns out that his skill, Yi Peng's skill, isn't that he's good at cultivating. He just has he's super talented in whatever he does. So they have him paint a portrait. They're just oh, because he was painting in his free time. He's oh, paint me something or whatever. And it turns out this painting is worth thousands of spirit stones and spirit essence, and it is very it's so well done. And now this story, to me, when I read it, felt a lot I'm actually a cultivation big shot. And the reason why is because these stories are kind of similar. So when I was reading I'm a cultivation big shot, this story was in the voting pool. So if you don't know about web novel, they have a like a section where you can vote for like your favorite book, and you can also vote for upcoming books and things that might get translations and might not, because a lot of these books are Chinese. So that's why the title is so long when it's actually like pretty short in Chinese like letters, right? So this I was reading Cultivation Big Shot and I was really liking it. As you know, if you've watched my videos, you know that I really like that story. And I saw this in the voting pool and I was like, oh, cool. And so when it's in the voting pool, there's 40 chapters, right? And it's like after the 40th chapter, it's like, oh, you can either vote for this or you can vote for something else, and you don't even have to read it to vote for it, right? And so I was like, all right, I'll read it. You know, it sounds interesting. And I read it, and it gave me like, I'm a Cultivation Big Shot vibes. And I really liked Cultivation Big Shot. So I was like, oh yeah, you know, I read the first couple chapters and I got the same kind of vibe. The difference for me is that Cultivation Big Shot, all of the jokes like land, like they're, because it's a comedy, right? And the joke is that Mr. Lee, right, is super good at everything, but he doesn't know he's good at everything. But the difference between that and this is the person knows, Yi Peng knows that he's good at stuff, but he's like told that he's not good. And so like that's where the difference lies. And I was like, oh, maybe, you know, maybe that's interesting, maybe it's not, you know. And I read up to the 40 chapters and I voted for it, and then it won the voting pool, and I was like, sick. And so I kept reading, and it just, the jokes really don't land for me. And I just, because it's like these sect leader and stuff, they have to go out and try to get like the best materials to teach Yi Peng, because they know that he's like a prodigy. They know that if they give him the right resources and all this stuff, that he will become like a powerhouse of a cultivator. And so they're like, oh, we have to go and get him all these stuff, and it just doesn't turn out for like the sect master and stuff. So they have to rely on Yi Peng to like get Yi Peng the materials that he needs to become the prodigy that he can be. So they like kind of, I don't like it because they use him, right? Like in the Cultivation Big Shot, they use him, but they think that Mr. Lee is using them. They feel like they're chess pieces in this massive board that Mr. Lee has, and he's just like moving them. And even though they seem like dumb moves to the other people, that to Lee, that makes sense in the grand scheme of the game. So they're using Mr. Lee, but they also think Mr. Lee is using them. And so they're like, oh yeah, this makes sense. And they even feel bad about using Mr. Lee and his resources. But this is completely different, where they're shameless in their usage of Yi Peng's skills. Like they get Yi Peng to paint them paintings, and then they sell those paintings. And Yi Peng believes that he's giving them these paintings for them. So like he doesn't, and I get it, because right, they're using it, like they're using the money or the essence to train Yi Peng, and so technically he's painting for himself. But it's just like how shameless they are about it, you know. Because if you're very powerful and you like take advantage of someone that's not very powerful, it's kind of bad, right? And the jokes are funny, like when they happen, they're funny, but they're not like gut busting. I've never laughed out loud at this story, unlike, I know I'm comparing Cultivation Big Shot to this story a lot, but if you read them both, you'll get the same vibes. And like in Cultivation Big Shot, it's the same joke. Like you know the joke and you know what the joke is, but it's how they do the joke that's funny. Like, because you know that Mr. Lee doesn't know that he's good, and you know that Mr. Lee like is this big shot. Like even if you read it, you get the impression, like if you were in this world, you would also have the impression that Mr. Lee was a big shot, and you would get that. But on this, the joke is that everything that they teach him, Yi Peng finds super easy, and like to the point where it's trivial for him. Like he can do stuff that would take normally years and years of practice in a couple days. Like with the sword master example, he learns all of the moves that the sword master knows before the sword master does. So like there's this specific like what's it called, sword technique, right, that the master or the teacher shows Yi Peng. He shows only the first couple moves because he doesn't know the last couple moves. Like to become proficient in this specific sword style, it takes like years of effort, and that's only if you're like a genius. Like it would take years of effort, like even more years than the teacher has been going at it. It takes years of effort to become proficient in like the first few moves, and then you have to learn those moves to perfection before you can learn the other moves. And it takes Yi Peng a few days. Like he's a genius among geniuses. It's not like he's a genius to like the first degree where it's like, yeah, you're better than most people, but you know, there's still people that are better than you. No, he's like the peak of the geniuses. He's the genius among geniuses. So it makes like the joke is that he is fast, and the joke continues on as, oh, I'm sad about how slow I am in my cultivation, which isn't really, I mean, yeah, I mean, everyone feels a little green sometimes, you know, like you get jealous of some people. That's the truth, you know. And the fact that these teachers, after they teach him and they become like jealous of his skill or whatever, they like mooch off him. They're like, oh, pay me this, or oh, you're gonna be great, and I'm your teacher, so I'm gonna get all the credit, and people are gonna want to come to our sect. And you know, I get it, I get it, you know, it makes sense, but it's not my thing, and that's understandable. You know, I'll tell you how I feel about a story, no matter if it's good or bad. And this story, it's not bad, right? Like obviously, I read it, so it's not bad, but it's not the greatest either. I was going to do a video about about a novel that I didn't finish because it's not good and it reads like a fan fiction, but I can't find it on my stories of web novel, so I have to look through that, but I'll get there eventually. That'll probably be my next one if I find it. But this story is good. I'm just really sad that like I have to, in order to read it, you have to commit coins to it, right? And that's one of the biggest like drawbacks on reading stories on web novel, is that 90% of the time the story will not be free, right? It'll be free up to like 40 chapters ish, and then after 40 chapters it'll be coins, and it'll usually be like 12 coins, which is like a weird number, and it doesn't break nicely when you buy like a $10 pack or a $5 pack of coins, right? So it's just inconvenient to read for me, right? I've been reading like Chrysalis for a long time. Chrysalis is free. It's 700 chapters of like good content that has funny moments. It has like moments that you don't know how the main character is going to get out of the situation. It has all these kind of nice moments that is free. And this story has much less going for it, in my opinion, right? But of course, it's only 140 some chapters long, so maybe there's going to be more, right? And maybe that I'm just impatient, right? And that's not that may be the case. I'm not infallible, you know. I'm an impatient person. If a story that I'm reading doesn't get good fast enough, you know, I will drop it. But you know, it's not worse than the last book that I read or that I reviewed. So I would wait. No, Jujutsu Kaisen was the last one that I read. I did before that one. I gave it like a 5 out of 10. This one I would give like a 6 out of 10. You know, if you're willing to read it and you want to take the time to do so, feel free. You know, it's not bad per se. You know, I've noticed that every book that I've reviewed so far has been at least a 5, right? So the next book that I'm going to do is well below a 5. I promise you that. And if you think I've had a lot of bad things to say about like stories before, nah, no shot. So just look forward to that. It'll be my first like truly negative review. So you got my review on this one, 6 out of 10. The title is very long, so if you look it up, it's a lot to write and you might forget. But remember to like and subscribe, comment. I always respond to my comments. Anyone who has been watching my videos for a while knows that, and this is a shorter video. Usually I try to keep my videos kind of short, but a lot of times if it's something that I'm excited about or I'm nostalgic about, I do ramble, and that's something that I've known to do, and like my real life friends, they know that. Like if I talk over people a lot because when I get excited, I like to really like go, you know, and that's not the case with this one. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's not bad, but I think for the amount of coins to spend to unlock the entire book, I think it's not really worth it, right? And it's rough, you know, because like I've read most of it, so it's a lot of coins that could have gone to a book that I like actually like instead of going to like this, you know. But these are things that happen. So thank you all for watching, and if you're still here at the end, comment your favorite book down below and I might get to it. We'll get there. So thank you a lot. I know this is going on way too long and I'm talking a lot at the end. Apologies. Bye.